Hello, everyone. This is Vern Davis. I am your host of Plant Profits. I want to welcome all of you to our podcast, Plant Profits. And Plant Profits is proudly brought to you by Produce Global. My guest today is someone that I've been really wanting to have a conversation with, and that is Kristi Palmer. And Kristi is the co-founder of Kiva Confections. And I hope you guys in the industry know Kiva. I know you do. Kiva is, and Kristi is the OG of one of the OGs of this industry. And she's built, along with her husband, a proud business that is doing $250+ million in revenue a year. But it's a lot of hard work. She's been involved with this thing for almost 13 years, and I want you all to welcome her to Plant Profits. How you doing, Kristi? Welcome.
Thank you, Vern. I'm doing so great today. Thank you for that amazing intro. My goodness, I'm blushing.
Yeah, well, you earned every word of that and more. I mean, it's wonderful to talk to you because you worked very hard. You guys collectively, you and your team have worked very hard to create a brand in an industry that I think it's the most difficult consumer industry to create a brand in. And I think you worked very hard and
Yeah, they don't
successful.
make it easy. That's for sure. Yeah, well, thank you for that. And, and it does take a village, right? It's the whole team. We're almost to 400 people now. So it's a big team, and
Yeah.
yeah, it takes every single one of us working really, really hard and all that passion and dedication every day.
But that is so true, and I'm sure of it. And but you know what's the story is so uh, appropriate and germane to what this industry is all about. I mean, here we are. Someone, I mean, you were an entrepreneur before you got into this deal, and I mean, you started this thing in your kitchen, right? And
Mhm.
so give us just a flavor of how it originated and why did you start making these chocolate bars in your kitchen?
Yeah, so it was becoming pretty clear that photography wasn't going to work out, at least at that moment. And so, we started looking for other sources of income, and
Yeah.
that's when the idea of, okay, well, we should probably grow weed in our backyard came to be. And so we my dad moved out of the family home with his new
Wait a
wife.
minute. Did he move out because you started growing weed, or
No, actually, he moved out because I had moved back in. He had a new wife. The family
okay,
dynamic was off, right?
okay,
And
got
yeah,
it.
so it wasn't working out very well. So to
Okay,
save the family, I like to say he moved out with the new wife. And then yeah, then we went in the garden shed and we pulled all the old tools out. We sealed that thing up, and Scott bought this book of like how to wire your, this electrical engineering book, basically, that's 3 inches thick.
yeah,
And, sat down, started reading that, and then rerouted our 220 line, like from the hot tub down to the garden shed, like another 50, 60 feet. And he's the engineer, right? So there's a problem, and there's
yeah.
a book or something you need to read or something Google to like get to the answer. He will like relentlessly find the answer. So in any case, we do the garden shed, we're starting to cultivate. And what does our flower look like on our first harvest? Like this dried up, old, brown, nasty. It was so bad that we like renamed the strain, we called it Brown Eyed Girl.
Oh, did you really?
Because it was like, it had room for improvement, let's put it that way.
Okay, okay,
And so yeah, so we then, okay, cultivation's not for us, but it got us into the stores. And that led us to what the real opportunity was edibles. edibles, you could, first you could brand. So you could stand out, you could put your name on it, you could be
Yeah.
seen, you could be repeatable, ownable, all that stuff. Flower was definitely not the case. Plants, not the case
Right.
then. And edibles at that time were totally experimental for folks, right? They were unlabeled, untested. Like you didn't know what kind of experience your $20 was going to get you at that time.
You know what? I always compare that because everybody's got an edible story. Everybody's
Yeah.
got an edible story, right? Everybody's got an edible story. It's almost like when you're young, everybody's got a tequila story, right?
Yeah,
Right? I mean,
exactly.
edible. It's the same thing, right? And so you stepped into a zone, a place in the industry. Now, at this time, you didn't. I mean, did you believe you'd be where you are today, 10 years later, with a $300 million business and 400 employees? And did
No.
no. So you're still right here. You're still 10
Yeah.
toes down trying to make ends meet. I mean,
Yeah.
this was the next idea.
Yeah. This was the next idea. This was like,
Yeah,
okay, like I said, like we'd like to eat, we're hungry.
right.
So we got a lot of time and nothing to do. So let's figure something out. So yeah. And so it was, a few
That's
months of product development and trying to get the formulations and deciding on what kind of chocolate we were going to use and
yeah.
what type of extraction would work the best. And then creating a brand, right? We thought, okay, we need a package and a logo. And we
Okay.
worked with a couple that we knew from our photography days. And they were like, oh no, you need a brand. And that was a big, like, oh, light bulb moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? We need to
Mm-hmm.
determine what will Kiva stand for? What is it going to believe in? And then, so once we came up with those kind of like honest, professional, trustworthy, information forward,
Mm-hmm.
natural,
Mm-hmm.
those were our guiding principles for a long, long time. It was like just stay in that lane and keep true to those few words, those few terms. And yeah, and here we are.
Did you, it's amazing. Did you know anything about building a brand at the time?
Only I guess a little bit only from really like photography school,
Yeah.
where we learn to sell imagery to
Okay.
people and
Yeah.
and make them believe in the picture and like make them have an emotional connection or a response to an image. So that would probably be the extent of it. But again, Scott is, he's he's where there's a will, there's a way, and he can solve any problem. So he really kind of took that branding exercise to heart, and
Mm-hmm.
he today still is the like driving force behind brand creation and keeping our brands like on the right track. Of course, we have a whole team that does that now. So
Right.
especially in the early days, you were like, oh no, 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 Kiva doesn't do, what would Kiva do? Kiva wouldn't do that. Like Kiva
Right.
doesn't do it like that. Kiva does it like
Yeah.
this.
And so you treated it like it's an entity and a person and a living thing. And that's really some core um, components of building a brand, something that's dependable, something that people can trust.
Yep.
And you guys have been amazing at doing that. When so you have these products, and you're known for chocolate bars, gummies, mints, those kinds of things. That's what you're known for.
Mhm.
How do you keep it alive? How do you keep me interested, right, into what's happening next in Kiva?
Yep. Keeping the interest of the consumer
Hmm.
happens for us with innovation and trend setting
Okay.
or keeping up with the trends.
Hmm.
So like our most recent product, Lost Farm, is a gummy and fruit chew. So like almost like a
Hmm.
Starburst format. And
Okay.
um, And what we've done with that product is we've put a strain specific live resin extraction in there. And then we use super interesting, fun flavors that really kind of highlight the flavors that you get from that strain. So
Right.
Lost Farm tastes like weed, like we're not trying to cover up the taste of the cannabis, but rather
Right.
select strains that taste good and then play up those flavors in a way that people can really like live with that strain for a moment while they're
Mm-hmm.
consuming their fruit chew or their gummy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is our most like connoisseur product. Like the tagline for that brand is never stop searching. So we're like
Mm-hmm.
always looking for the next cool thing. So I
Yeah,
think that's like one of my favorite products to talk about in the evolution of our product line, because
yeah,
it follows a trend, it leads the trend, like it's just a really cool, exciting item that gets people back into the brand.
that's great, and that's interesting. You're keeping uh, uh, the 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 strand taste in the product, and how do you know to do that? What I mean, because some people would you would think they would say, look, I want it to taste like a Starburst, right?
Hmm.
I want it to taste like that, except I'll get this very measured effect that I'm looking for and enjoying something that's different.
Yeah.
Um, what do you look at to tell you that you need to do that differently?
Yeah, I think great question. So
Hmm.
we do have a director of innovation on the team
Okay.
who helps us kind of determine, like, with focus groups, with
Uh-huh.
vendor interviews,
Uh-huh.
looking at market data, market research, like, okay, what are we going to make a coconut flavor or a mango flavor, right? So like
Right.
we now have help for that. But we also, I think we're really in touch with our bud tenders and talking to folks that are kind of influencers in the market
Hmm.
to get a
Okay.
sense of what's interesting to them. And
Right.
we have lots of products that don't taste like cannabis at all, right? Our
No, I
Camino
know.
products, they taste like candy, but
Hmm.
for these, it's like, well, let's make it more interesting. And
Hmm.
cannabis can taste amazing if you give it a little bit more attention, if you're a little bit more mindful about what strains you're sourcing
Mm.
and how the extraction is done. And,
Yeah.
there's a lot of kind of nuances and intricacies to creating a delicious tasting cannabis forward product. So yeah, I think we try to stay in touch with the market as much as possible on kind of all different types of levels.
Yeah. How, and that's great. So you're doing it through common consumer products, analytical panels,
Hmm.
collecting data, and then kind of figuring out the direction you want to play in that arena where the consumer is headed. And
Exactly.
that's great. So tell me, what do you think's the difference in your journey versus if I was someone who invented just this crazy cool free pre-roll? Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
right? So it's kind of describe to me and to the audience what you believe the differences in that journey would be in today's environment in 2023.
Yeah, amazing.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, oh gosh. It's okay. So the big differences between pre-roll, and it's interesting you pick pre-roll instead of like flour, right?
Yeah,
Because flour is we could have a whole different conversation about flour,
yeah,
but
we may have
pre-roll, yeah.
it.
Yeah. Pre-roll has some another step of like special sauce or IP,
Yes.
right? It has been manufactured into a
Hmm.
pre-roll. So there's all kinds of
It's
different
kind of
elements.
a bespoken kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
It has to be rolled right. It has to be the
Yeah.
right weight. It has to be the right quality. So that's an interesting product to compare to. So I think with edibles, we're fairly far away from the bare naked cannabis plant, right? We're pretty far away from flour. We've added a whole bunch of ingredients like,
Yeah.
sugar and pectin and then we've added in some of our products terpenes. We
Hmm.
have flavors. we have packaging, and then we have the whole entire kind of format to play with of food consumption. So when we talk about our products, when we message our products, we have like so much, we just have so much play. We have so much territory that we can cover because we're a food product. A pre-roll is definitely going to have more play and more kind of reasons to talk about their product than a flower. But you're essentially, the pre-roll is a device for smoking raw flower. So there's not as much that you can play with and talk about.
That's right.
Fewer levers to pull, right? Like just there's a lot less. So I think the pre-roll flower companies, like they have it a lot harder to differentiate, to talk about their products than maybe us edible folks do. There's less, like, you know, there's less armor that there's fewer levers to pull. So
I totally see that, and that goes with what, you know, I don't know how we didn't run into each other, but I was at Benzinga uh in Miami last week, like you were. And the thing that I noticed, and I talked to a lot of people, and you know, I did my podcast and I had other meetings there. And it just seems to me the farther you get away from the flower, the more optimism is in the business.
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because so and let's okay, so you agree with me. So let's take a look at your company. Tell me how your organization is structured.
Okay. So
Okay.
we have Kiva Brands, which is
Uh-huh.
I call it our IP holding company, our corporate employees,
Mm-hmm.
our marketing team, anything that doesn't directly have to do with cannabis sits inside of Kiva Brands.
So you got
Um,
marketing, you have finance,
yep,
right?
yep.
You have
HR,
PR,
yeah,
HR, okay,
yep.
all
All
of
those,
those.
yeah,
The standard
legal,
functions,
yeah.
legal, right,
Standard
okay.
functions. And
Mm-hmm.
then underneath that, we have two cannabis companies. So we have Kiva Manufacturing, which in California does all of our manufacturing products.
Okay.
And then our second entity is Kiva Sales and Service, which is the distribution side of the business. Most people don't know, especially consumers, but most people don't know about the distribution side of the business because it's
Mm-hmm.
B2B, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Kiva Confections is B2C, and most people think, oh, they know that we manufacture, so
Mm-hmm.
they're aware of the manufacturing arm of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the extent of the setup, or of
Mm-hmm.
the kind of business entities. Um,
Do you have
and
growing and cultivation?
no, we don't cultivate, we don't grow anymore, thank
Okay.
goodness.
Yeah.
We don't make our own extracts. That's been a beautiful part of
That's all
regulation.
outsourced.
That's all outsourced. We have
Okay.
done all those things before.
Mm-hmm.
We've made our own extracts up until probably, I don't know, a few years ago, but
Mm-hmm.
legalization came, or recreational came along
Mm-hmm.
in California,
Right.
professionalized the supply chain, and then prices have gone down, 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 and
Yeah.
quality has gone way up. So
Yeah.
let the experts do the cultivation side.
So so if I was to look at your consumer products business, and I would say the brand is the head
Mhm.
and the supply chain is the tail, you are in the head.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
I think that's a good place to be today.
Yeah. It's great. It really is. It really is. It's great. And it's also, like you asked earlier, how do you keep it interesting?
Yeah.
Because you can go, cool, we made our chocolate bars, we made our gummies, let's take a vacation. And like if you want to stay ahead and be in the head, you
Yeah.
gotta like continue to fend off the rest of the folks that are fighting for that position. And you do that by staying cool and staying relevant. And that's where a lot of the work comes from, for sure, is
Yeah.
picking up the
No
next
doubt.
thing.
No doubt. I love this conversation. Welcome back, everyone. This is Vern Davis. I am your host of Plant Profits, and Plant Profits is proudly brought to you by Produce Global. My guest today is Kristi Palmer. She's co-founder and president of Kiva Confections, and this is awesome. Having a really cool discussion about, basically, she's a brand. She's the head. She's not the tail. All the cultivation things. She's on the creative side of the business, and it's really, really cool to see someone actually successfully build a brand. And early in this conversation, I call it one of the OGs in the industry, and that is in the legal industry. That is so true. She is. She and her husband and her team have done a tremendous job, and she just really kind of explained how she set the business up, and which has allowed her to help build a brand ongoing in the business. So talk to me about the people. You got a sizable company. You got 400 people. That's a lot of folks, from starting out in the back shed in the back of the house to $300 million in revenue, 400 people. That's a lot of people in a business. And talk to me about culture. Tell me about what you guys and Scott, what have you created there?
Yeah, great question. We just recently relaunched our culture club, and we had our first big meeting yesterday. We had 35 people from the company join the culture club meeting, which is amazing. It's 10% of the company came in for the culture club. It's super cool. So
what is the culture club? Good a minute. You got to back up here. What is the culture club? Nobody else has that. You can't talk to me like everybody I talk to has a culture club.
Yeah, so culture club, it's taken on many forms over the years. Somebody reminded me to be called the fun committee, which I'm like, okay, I think the fun committee is maybe an even better name for the culture club. But culture club is I think in this post-COVID world, there are still people I don't know at the company. It's it's a lot. I think we're a family business, and we want to feel and run like a family business. And so Culture Club is responsible for planning events, basically bringing the fun back to the workplace, and that human element, the human connection, back to the workplace. So we're looking at planning events big and small. So is it bowling night? Is it a softball club? Or bigger events we have our Kiva holiday party once a year, but really big. And so we need to change the way we kind of get together, and how we've been doing it isn't really working for us today. So it's about bringing the company together, and having that human touch, which I think is so important. And just the way we work today, being remote for a lot of the time. And we too also have manufacturing team members that are on the pack out line every day, right? So there's so many people who aren't in front of a laptop, but they are all together in a room every single day, 40 hours a week. And it's so easy to get disconnected from those folks. So we're just trying to find ways to bring more camaraderie back into the business.
Yeah, that's interesting. I obviously, that, a couple years from now, when you have 1,000 people, that it really gets different, and you're going to be very uncomfortable because you won't know, half of your organization, the way that you grew the business.
Yeah.
Right. So what are you going to do about that? Because that's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. So, perfectly timed question, because in a couple weeks from now, I'm going into the manufacturing warehouse for a week, and doing for one, I need to learn how to make some of our newer products that I never made with my own two hands. So chocolate I know how to make, but I need to know, I need a better understanding of the production process of gummies and chews and stuff. So, and then also I get to work with the team for a week. So that is we've got Sean Ryan in there, who's been on the team for, oh my gosh, probably 8 years.
Wow.
And moved up over the years and
Uh-huh.
started in packaging. Now he runs all of our gummy production. And so I get to go spend a week with that team, who most of them I don't know, because our gummies they launched in like 2018. And so all those folks are, that I've considered the world kind of shut down at the beginning of 2020, right? So I only had like a year to get to know that
Yeah.
line, that line of people there. And so, yeah, a part of, I think, what helps the company like maintain its cohesiveness is to get in there and just be present, right? And learn what is that person's name? What is their job? So
Mhm.
yeah, that's something I really like to do. It's been a little harder with COVID and kids, but I'm like, no, I need to get in the manufacturing warehouse for a week. What could I do with my time that could be better?
Yeah, that's great. So is that your plan, to float around ever so
Yeah,
often and
yeah, I think,
just embed yourself and be part of a team
yep,
and
float.
have people
Mhm.
teach you, and you take a step back
Yeah,
and just be part of the team.
yeah, be part of the team. That's a great way
Mhm.
for me to get to know the people. Another way
Yeah,
I spend my
that's
time is
great.
getting out in the dispensaries.
Hmm.
That's huge too, because a lot,
Yeah.
it's easy to think, oh, these corporate cannabis companies, big cannabis, right? And
Hmm.
it's like, big cannabis. It's like, what's I hate that term. Makes no sense, right? Like, okay, whatever. But it's a thing, like it's what people believe. So yeah, going out in the dispensaries is another way that I spend my time too.
Yeah, that's great. So we talked about culture and what you have culture clubs, you have that, you're immersing yourself every so often. Is Scott doing the same thing?
Yep, yep.
Uh-huh.
He's in the warehouse all the time. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that's I mean, I think that's a good look. That's a good idea. And that will definitely help people see you like you really are, right? Because
Yeah.
people make up things about who they think you are.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it's good for people to see how you really are. You know, the talent journey in cannabis, right? You know, we, I've been in it for about 8 years in legal cannabis. And the thing that I've learned, I remember, right, 2015, everybody was wanting to come in from other industries. And wow, this is the new frontier, right? This is a lifetime event. When would you ever get a chance to go into a new consumer products business, right? And so you have people coming from everywhere, and it's interesting to see there's people that you talk to now that came through and tried it, and I mean it's hard, you know. Somebody told me last week, you got to assume everything's wrong, right? Kind of that kind of sums it up, right? You got to assume
Yeah.
everything's wrong. But some people, a lot of people have made decisions that they're out.
Yeah.
They've come through, they're out. They don't want to do that. And then there's some people who said there's nothing else I'd rather do. How do
Mhm.
you find the people who have other company experience that could be valuable to you and
Yeah.
what you're trying to do, and have come in and now they know cannabis and they
Yeah.
love cannabis. And so
Ah,
they take all of those years before cannabis and in cannabis and create
yes.
something special for whoever they partner with. How do you find those people, and how do you understand that they're here to stay?
Oh, yes. I love that. I love that. Because those folks are so there. That is like you said, you didn't have that 5 years ago. You
Right.
didn't even have that 3 years ago. Like once California in 2018 went legal,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, we like a whole new talent pool opened up.
Right.
And then yeah, now fast forward 5 years, you have people who are very experienced in cannabis. They've worked for one or two companies
Hmm.
prior, and now they have knowledge of the industry. They've taken a company from A to B or B to C, and now they're ready for like the next kind of journey or the next chapter in their career. So we have a in-house director of recruiting.
Hmm.
So that is a role that's been with Kiva for maybe a year and a half or 2 years.
Hmm.
And Jim is amazing and
Hmm.
runs kind of all of our recruiting. So he's always got his feelers out there for leads. We definitely, we're lucky that we have a great reputation. And so we get a lot of inbound leads for sure. So that's huge. But yeah, screening for passion is definitely a big one, right? Like you gotta, and then also profiling the job in a real world setting. Like I remember when I was recruiting delivery drivers, for example, I used to be like, oh, it's a really cool job. Like, cause I liked it, right? It was like, you get to be in all the dispensaries and you get to talk to the buyers and the teams. And then it was like, okay, we need to give this a very realistic spin. Like you're going to spend about 6 hours in the car every day. You might have to wait at the dispensary for 2 hours for that one buyer who won't return your phone call. So I think it's about profiling the job, also in a very realistic way, because even for the upper level jobs, like it's hard. Like there's no playbook. It gets crazy. Like one day you're running to the left and then like, bam, a bus comes and hits you. And now you're running to the right, and your leg's broken. And like you have less resources than you did yesterday. And then the direction changes again. It's really like, there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of change. And, if somebody comes from a very corporate job where they had 15 people underneath them and they never had to roll up their sleeves. That's a term we use a lot, like roll up your sleeves, get in there, get dirty, do it yourself. Like if they're used to having tons of resources at their fingertips and just, making things happen with their big, incredible team, like, yeah, maybe that'll translate. But we need people who are comfortable building and getting scrappy when you need to, and getting in there and figuring that out without feeling overwhelmed or overburdened.
Great. How do you feel about that now? You just mentioned someone earlier in our conversation that you thought had about 8 years of experience with you. How's tenure coming in your critical roles?
Yeah. Okay. So critical roles tenure. Yeah, we've got some people. We celebrate anniversaries every month on our all hands meeting, and so we put their picture up and put every month, like, who has an anniversary that month. And so yeah, we've got some people in the 8 year, 7 year, 6 year. For some of our like these are some folks that started like in packaging or as a brand ambassador or as a salesperson, and now they have worked their way through the ranks to like, I think Kristi Strong is like our senior creative marketing director, senior manager. So she's worked up from a brand ambassador. So yeah, so tenure in some of those roles is amazing. It's a small group, I would say, that has continued with us that long. Been able to like grow in an environment where, like, so one of our initiatives right now is career paths. So we haven't had a great like career path trajectory. So somebody starts as a brand ambassador and they're like, I want to be VP of sales. How do I get there? We're like, well, we don't really know. So now we're starting to work on, okay, well, if you are
Development.
development, yeah, and just showing the path,
That's a good
right?
idea.
So
Right.
that's amazing. And then some of our more like we did a big hiring round in 2018 when things went legal in California. We hired a COO, a director of operations, and a director of sales. And some of those folks are still with the company, so they're going on 5 years. That was like a big cohort, a time when we hired a lot of like leadership roles, and a lot of those people are still with us today.
Oh, that's great. No, that's great. What do you see for, I mean, you guys are award winning and highly recognized in the industry, but when you're building a brand in the cannabis space, you're doing hard work. Uh, what's your vision? What's ahead of you in Kiva? Where are you going with this brand, and where do you see the industry and how you fit into that?
Yeah, I think a challenge for us is going to be expansion.
Okay.
And how do we continue to grow our brand across the country and then outside of the country
Yeah.
into completely different markets, like into the
Did you just go into Canada not too long ago, or?
We did,
Yeah.
but we are no longer in Canada. We've withdrawn from the
Okay.
market. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So you're learning.
yeah. Learning.
That's education right there.
It is education. Those are the best lessons, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it
Yeah,
happens and you got to go through those things.
yeah, yeah.
And so expansion is the big thing and challenge. How many markets are you in now? Where are you?
So we're in 10 markets, including California.
Okay. Are they West Coast or you're all over?
All over. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We're getting pretty well spread now, which is
Mm-hmm.
great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what's been the key of how are you connecting the dots to making sure Kiva is Kiva
Oh
wherever you go?
man.
Yeah,
Yes. It's very challenging.
it is. It
There are
is.
easier ways to get your products from California to New York than in making them in New York, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's taken a business model that already worked, like a consumer products good model that already worked,
Yeah,
and then just completely dissecting it and making it really hard and expensive. So that's
totally.
the yeah, that's the baseline is it's
Can you fix
crazy.
that? Can
Yeah.
can you fix that for us all, please?
I would love to. Me and my army. Yeah, so yeah, that is growing into
Hmm.
other markets. I
Okay.
would say it takes experience, it
Hmm.
takes humility,
Yeah.
and an amazing group of people. Like we have a few years ago, we decided, all right, we're either going to go into a state and invest and be number one, two, or three. Like that's our happy place, or we're not going to go into that state because it doesn't do us much good to launch an estate and then be number 15. Like nobody, that
Okay.
doesn't create a rich,
Okay.
compelling story to
So you
anyone.
so you're going to win,
Yeah,
but
going to win.
and you figure that out, and you go into that state
Yeah,
and you execute that.
yeah,
And the good thing is that with a brand, uh, it can become regional knowledge, right?
hmm, yep,
And the word can spread,
yep,
and people will follow a brand, right? So the state adjacent that opens up, right? All of a sudden, the following is a lot bigger than you think it is because people are aware,
yeah, yeah,
and that's a big opportunity. So you have to be very smart about where you go, and I think
yes,
that's great. Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's great. What so really quick, what are your passion projects?
Ooh,
Yeah,
um, yeah, okay. Passion projects. I already mentioned Culture Club. Um,
yes,
that is a big one. And really this year, I am trying to complete my initiative to visit all of our markets outside of
yeah,
California.
okay,
Super I thought, oh, that'll be really fun and easy to just go travel around but
hmm,
it's really it takes a ton of coordination and thought and planning to get into the markets at the right time.
right,
Meet the bud tenders at the dispensaries. Like I like to get really granular with it and yeah, make it impactful both for myself, our team that works in the state of Michigan, for example,
hmm,
and really connect back to the consumer there in that state. So I'm very passionate about that. Other passion projects. I mean, I have two little kids now. So
they got to
they're
fit into this thing,
whew,
you know.
those two.
They got to definitely fit into this thing. I
Oh my God.
look, I tell you, Kristi, it is terrific that you showed up on our show today and gave us some knowledge and some wisdom about what it takes. And you're a true story. I mean, what you guys have done is so real, and you're doing all the heavy lifting.
Thanks.
And I hope that the industry will utilize you to teach
Amazing.
and to help, because we're living in a time where you want your competitor to be strong, right?
Totally. Oh my God. Yes.
Right. So more success, everybody's, one success affirmation creates more success, and that is the chain we got to create. And I really appreciate you being on the show, and I appreciate everybody listening to the show. And Kristi Palmer, who is the co-founder of Kiva, please, everyone, find us on wherever you get your podcasts. Find Plant Profits, and Cannabis Radio is our partner here, and Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. And then also take a look at Produce Global, my company, and social media. Anywhere on social, we're Insta, Facebook, we're everywhere on social media. We're all over social media. LinkedIn, you can find myself and my colleagues all over the place on social media, and really understand how we're helping build companies and what we do and changing people's lives at the same time. And until next time, I'm Vern Davis. I am the host of Plant Profits, and cheers.